Welcome to A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Podcast. This is Makayla. I should have said, we never tell the people beforehand, but this camera's right on you. So if you're talking to the camera, you can look to that one. Or the GoPro. But that one is yours. We share one.
We are your hosts, Jesse and Eric.
Yes. That was awkward.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm trying something different.
Yes. I always like to introduce people in a weird way, basically by letting you introduce yourself, because you know what you do.
Okay, well, my name is Makayla, and I am from St. Catharines, born and raised, and I am a high school student, as well as a mom and entrepreneur, as well as a model. Yeah.
And the entrepreneurial business is modeling.
Yes.
Yes.
I model and I coach other models locally.
Makes sense to have the two sides of it. I can't really see trying to survive on just being a model and start out being that easy to do. But if you have
I
a
would
business
not be
mindset,
able to do it.
no,
So,
not having the body.
no.
Well, I guess there's all sorts of models.
Yes.
There's spokesmodels and also like acting as well, like non-speaking. So it's kind of the same as modeling, but it's facial acting.
I would do very well as the before people in weight loss ads.
That's so mean to say to
You
yourself.
just find a lookalike that's ripped.
Don't
Yeah.
say that to yourself.
I'm joking. It's fine. I'm not. If anybody's looking, I'm willing.
So you say you've lived in St. Catharines your whole life. Is there any temptation to go anywhere else? Is there a bigger modeling scene somewhere else that's...
My plan is to move to Hamilton and commute back and forth from Toronto because I feel like that's a smart business move, because if I were to base my own company in Hamilton, that gives me leeway to work with Niagara as well as Toronto.
Makes sense.
And not just that, it's easier to communicate as well as commute back and forth from Toronto as well as Niagara because of the GO system.
Yeah. I think they're going to have full regular GO service to Niagara Falls eventually. That's on the horizon. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and cheaper housing too, because Toronto's ridiculous for housing costs.
Exactly. So instead of going all the way to Toronto and wasting all my money, I can live in Hamilton and do basically the same thing.
Sounds like a quite sensible, well thought out place to be. Hamilton's an okay city. We occasionally do a wedding here and there in Hamilton, and
Just a lot of one-way streets.
there are a lot.
That's
of
the
one-way
only
streets.
issue.
Yeah.
Other than
Queen
that,
Street
it's a
and
nice
King
city.
Street.
Every entrepreneur has a story or a reason as to why they became an entrepreneur, and you're rare because I think you're the youngest person we've had.
How old are you?
18.
Okay. Definitely the youngest.
I remember what I was doing at 18, and it was not running a business.
No.
18,
I was in my second year of university, probably still coming to grips with my own existence, I would say at that point.
Well, 18, I was either in my last summer of college or first year of university or college. I didn't go to university when I said that, but yeah, that's impressive. So why'd you start? What's the beginning? What was the driving factor?
Well, my father raised me with a very strong business mindset.
What'd your father do?
He was a truck driver.
Okay.
He dropped out of high school, and he didn't want that for me or my siblings, so he pushed schooling on us very strong. And I took more of a business and more of how would you say it? I don't even know, like a leadership role. Because I was also in the Air Cadet program, so I like taking the leadership, and I did go up through the ranks to the rank of flight sergeant. So I did do drill, and I did marksmanship, and I was a drill team commander, and I did do teaching. So I had to write out business plans, and I had to teach classes as well, just like any other teacher at your elementary school or high school. So I've done that job. I've seen what they had to do behind. Like, I know the back work that teachers do, and I get that. Not just that, I'm also a mother, so I mean, at 18, I don't see any other many around here, and it's hard to be welcomed in the community, you could say. Like, I mean, I don't have many friends. I'm mainly just involved in the industry, so I mean, I try to reach out to people, and like, I mean, it doesn't work too well with like people in my own age group. So because I come off more of a mature person, more of a business woman, people assume I'm older and people assume that I'm more mature. So they kind of place me in a larger age group bracket to communicate with.
It sounds quite functional. I think I've always sort of fit in with a slightly older
You have.
crowd. I tend to date older. I tend to just associate with older people more. I don't know. Never fit in with people my own age as much.
And when I met you, when we first started communicating, I wouldn't have thought you were 18, so you do present yourself in a professional manner, which is good. I always thought it was weird when I was starting doing the wedding business that I was being hired by people. I look older. I know I do. It's a running joke. It's okay. But people would always be surprised, and I'd be able to get away with it because there were people trusting a 21-year-old with thousands of dollars to do their wedding and documenting the most important kind of memories of their life. And some of them, just through communication, found out that I was considerably younger than they thought. I already had their money at that point. But they did find out I was younger. So there is a benefit to acting older when you're a entrepreneur because you can be taken more seriously, I think.
I totally get that because there's people who want me to represent them as an agent, but I'm more into the coaching. I don't want to be an agent. I want to be like representing the people. I want to more so help them and train them so they can be on their own way and be their own business, be their own entrepreneur and take control of their own career. I want to help them. I don't want to take control of it. So when people come to me and say, hey, do you want to be my agent? Because I have people who do come to me from Toronto, from Hamilton, from the States, who message me saying, hey, I want you to represent me or my child. Because I do have parents come to me as well, because I do have parents who do trust me. So, I mean, it's quite honoring that the fact that people want me to do this and that, what I've accomplished at my age. So, I mean, I'm quite happy, but I mean, I'm still willing to help them and I want to help them. That's one of the main things that I want to do with my company is just help other people get into the industry, whether it be modeling, dancing, singing, acting. I have connections to multiple parts of the industry now. From doing this, I started this at 15, so 3 years ago.
Which is also impressive.
I've self-managed myself since I was 15. Modeling, and then just started recently getting back into dancing and acting and vocals, and I mean, I'm doing quite well, and I'm quite surprised on what I've done.
One thing that comes with the age, I think, a little bit when it comes to a lot of that stuff, do you find that maybe there's a lot of parents that are harder on their children than perhaps they should be, or they're pushing some kind of vision onto their children and all?
I totally get that.
It's one of the darker sides of things, but
yeah,
I know it's out there.
My parents pushed me to do great. Like, they wanted me to go through university. They wanted me to do really well and pass high school on time and go on the track they wanted me to go on. And I didn't exactly do what they did. I moved out at 16. I had my son at 17. I've been living on my own, and I'm doing quite well, and they're very surprised in how well I'm keeping myself. But they have to understand that they're also the ones who raised me to be the woman I am and to be the mindset that I have. Because if it wasn't for my parents, I wouldn't have this business mindset. Because I found out recently that neither one of my parents completed high school. My mom thought she did after all these years, but it turns out she was missing her grade 12 English, and she didn't even want to go to her graduation. So she didn't even go. So she found out she never graduated. And she worked in gas stations, and then she worked on a coffee truck, and then now she moved to Alberta, and now she's a manager at a Giant Tiger. So I've learned the business aspect from my mom, and I worked in gas stations when I was 15 to 17, and then now I'm recently working as a fry cook at a bowling alley.
It's good to have some versatility in the jobs that you've had. I know younger people these days seem to have a long list of very different jobs that they've had because people are less so sticking to just one thing, which is both advantageous in that they have multiple skills, but kind of you start from the bottom every time you go somewhere new, so it can be frustrating, I would imagine.
Yeah. I started with paper route at 12 years old. Yeah. I did that for 3 years.
That's a good start.
No, it's terrible money.
To be fair, I started in August. So I was starting going into the winter. Yeah. And I had over 100 houses to do by myself. Then I did it Wednesdays and then Thursdays. And then the Thursdays are like the papers that are like this thick.
I don't know how well they paid you, but it was not good. It was like $1 a paper.
No, I made, I think, $64 a month.
Yeah, I think it was around
and I had to
40
work,
or 50 bucks a month.
So $64 a month, and I worked 2 days a week, so 8 days out of the month for $64.
Yeah, it's terrible money. And then your hands are all coated in like
the ink, yeah, in the newsprint.
Yeah, it just rubs off on all the door handles and stuff in your hands.
And after the paper route I did, I worked at a gas station for 6 months, and then I transferred to another gas station for a year and a half. And then I left for maternity leave, and then I moved to Alberta, and then I moved to Alberta in a lovely time. I flew there, and then I ended up going homeless out there with my mom because a couple situations happened with the landlord. And then I ended up getting on a bus and at 35 weeks pregnant and bussed back here for 2.5 days. And then now I have my own apartment in St. Catharines, and I'm doing quite well with my son and finishing school. I will be graduating this June. I'll be taking a year off and focusing on my modeling and my career and hopefully opening up my company and then officially. And then after that, I'm planning on going to either Niagara College or Humber College for business studies.
Well, you definitely have the
drive.
The drive and the story that one day we'll be reading in a business success book. That's a trek. What happened? Can I ask? 'Cause it's always like the homelessness in Alberta. That sounds like a.
What happened was we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Alberta, and the landlord was an alcoholic. And
the best kind of landlord.
But it was a landlord that lived upstairs, and we lived in the basement.
The worst kind of landlord.
So one night he came into my apartment, like walked into my apartment drunk, and I was just sitting on the couch with my boyfriend at the time, and he grabbed me by my head and started shaking me. I was 7 months pregnant at the time. It was scary. I had no idea who it was. At first glance, I thought it was my mom's boyfriend, but then I turned around and realized it wasn't him, and I realized it was my landlord, and I'm like, what the heck? So I was there like a deer in headlights. The two of us were. We had no idea what to do, and I just let him walk and just go back out and shut the door. And then I ran into my mom's bedroom and told her what happened, and she went upstairs and he farted in her face. Yeah, disrespected. Yeah, and then we called the police. And in Alberta, it's not the police, it's the RCMP that show up.
Right.
So they showed up and they arrested him for assault and break and enter. And then, so within 48 hours, we were moved out into a motorhome. So I was realizing and facing the fact that I was going to give birth to my son, and we were going to be living in a motorhome because it was so hard. Because in Alberta, they actually allow landlords to not allow children. That's abolished here in Ontario, but in Alberta, you can have places and locations that don't allow children. So anybody under the age of 16 is not allowed to live in that place at all. So I would be allowed, but as soon as my son was born, they would kick us out.
It's a very strange thing.
It is very...
In Ontario, tenants have all the rights you could possibly want. They have the upper hand in almost every situation. That's absurd that they do that in different
Alberta
province.
laws are quite weird. Very weird, actually.
Even strange stuff like just returns on water bottles and stuff seems to be a foreign concept.
If you return all your plastics and all your glass and everything, they actually give you money in return.
Yeah.
The only close thing we have that here is batteries.
Well, but you do pay a deposit on the plastics to begin with.
A little, well, yeah. But they only pay a 5% tax.
Yes, the taxes are much, much lower.
A lot lower, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Wild West of Canada.
The schooling system there is weird as well because they don't count grade 9 as high school. So all my grade 9 credits when I went over there, they're like, okay, well, we can't count these. And I'm like, so what? I have to do another year of high school?
And did you?
I was back here before I even got the chance.
Okay.
That's good.
And to graduate here, you have to have 30 credits.
Yeah.
To graduate in Alberta, you have to have 100 credits.
totally different system of some kind.
So each class is worth 5 credits or something. I had no idea how it worked. It was so confusing to me. I did not get it.
Both my two of my coworkers that I work with every day building houses come from Alberta, so I've heard a little bit, and I guess Saskatchewan too. But yeah, no, it's different there.
It is extremely different.
I don't think most of my friends don't envision moving out there unless some of them, when I was in high school, they left for like the oil sands and stuff like that.
I had friends that did the exact same thing, and most of them are still flourishing over there. But there's one that lost his job recently and is now facing the issue of the fact that his job that was very cozy can no longer be done by him. And he's not sure if he's going to stay out there or move back to, Tilsonburg, which I don't know what's better, but I would still stay out there.
My mom moved out there because she was born out there, so she wanted to go back home. And since then, her health has very much improved.
Really?
Well, because I don't know what, like she had trouble breathing down here, and then when she went back, her breathing, she said she hasn't had any problem. It's because out there, because we have a more moist air and they have a more of a dry air.
That's a weird thing too that I hear from my my coworker, is that they keep saying like it's so much colder on certain days here because you get sort of this chill from the dampness in the air, and they say that doesn't exist out there.
In Alberta, because they don't have the lakes or anything that are close condensed, so everything's all spread out. They don't have the cold moisture from the waters that keep their air moist. So when they get cold, it's a dry cold. So it's a lot faster to get hypothermia. From what I was told, but I may be wrong.
Works. But I almost want to just go there just to see what that's like.
It's not bad. I drove through Jasper. It was so gorgeous. It was so beautiful. We saw a lot of animals like bears, buffalo, moose. It was so much fun. It was a great trip.
I almost got stuck on not stuck, but almost got invited to a trip to the Illilouette Glacier in near Banff.
I actually was driving by there. My mom so we were going to Kamloops on a road trip to go see my aunt that I think I met when I was a baby, but I've seen her once since. And then we took a huge detour through Banff just to see the glaciers.
Mm-hmm. Sounds so like fun. A worthy reason for a detour.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I was supposed to go there to research lichens, but that didn't work out. It was cheaper not to bring me there, obviously. So. But yes, it looks beautiful there.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's nothing like that really in Ontario. Although maybe I'm just used to it all.
Yeah.
That's true. You go somewhere, you see it from a tourist perspective.
Tons of people come to Niagara Falls, I guess, all the time and just take pictures or bring their family, and they want to see the thing for their whole lives. And
we're all like, okay.
I can appreciate the beauty of the falls, but when I go down there, it's either there in the summer and there's too many people to actually enjoy the damn things, or you go there in the winter, and I actually find the winter falls to be pretty because of the ice, but then it's just freaking cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of thinking about photography rules and all that around the falls, sort of jumping topics, do you find it's different to model in, say, Toronto as opposed to here? Like, is there different rules about where you can shoot and what you can do? I don't really know.
So in Toronto, it depends on the time and day, I guess.
If
because
you need like a permit to do certain things.
No, I don't even think, because I haven't shot in Toronto much because I have a transportation issue because I don't drive.
Okay.
And I don't have enough money to go every single week to go back and forth with or without a Presto card. And when I do shoot in Toronto, it could be location or it could be in a studio. Usually it's studio. But when it comes to shooting on location, I wouldn't seem that it would be too difficult, because I actually get to experience this in the Supermodel Canada competition, where we do get to go shoot on location in the summer. It's going to be really nice. I can't wait. I've seen clips and videos, so I've seen what they've done in the past. Mm-hmm. And they're also, and like the one shoot they did, it was sponsored by HP. You know, the
Packard,
the technology company, and they did like a huge promo shoot for them. It was so cool.
Huh. Interesting. I know in this region all the time, because I used to walk around with a camera on my neck like every single day for about 2 years. You get told to get out of a lot of places in this region. I'm just even walking through something as simple as a parking garage. Security is just trained to just tell you no photos, get out of here with the camera.
Yeah, I haven't had that problem here in St. Catharines myself that I can remember, but I've heard stories like the parking garage in St. Catharines. I've heard a photographer who had a model just standing on the one pillar, and the security guard came by and they're like, "Hey, get off there! It's private property."
Yeah.
So she got off, stepped 2 steps forward, so they're no longer on the property, and they continued shooting, and he can't do anything.
That's fair.
So I mean, I thought it was a funny story.
I think Montebello Park and
they closed at dusk, so if you're shooting like after that, but I think you can shoot there during the day. I haven't seen any problem.
You are supposed to have a permit there if you're a wedding.
Oh yeah.
And really the permit for that is so there's no other events that are going on and whatnot.
And so the public can't just like barge in as well.
but
they can't really close it off either.
No.
Yeah.
You can say, oh, we have a permit, but unless once there's a permit, you have somebody from like the St. Catharines Parks and Rec or something, which I doubt that they do.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably just for the well-being. We have a mutual acquaintance who booked a wedding at a park, and they double booked it, so there was some sort of, I can't remember, I think it was like a reenactment or a tour or like walk of the park on the day of the wedding, and they had to fight to keep their wedding area blocked off from people. And there's merit there. Like when we were shooting in Dominican, the ceremony space was blocked off by caution tape, which right off the bat isn't the most beautiful in photos or video.
Not at all.
But just by that alone, it's really beautiful watching a bride who's just sun-kissed beautifully walk up to her soon-to-be husband, and then in the background of the shot you see 2 fat people in Speedos in the background taking pictures.
That's what happens.
Yes, I know.
If you're dealing with a public space, then you gotta be prepared for all that. Although that's what Photoshop's for, if you don't want people to intrude on your shots, I guess.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder for video.
No, I feel sorry for you if you have to do something about that.
Yes.
'Cause I love editing photos, and it's not too hard to deal with that kind of stuff.
Do you want to edit 30 frames per second?
No.
It's
I
a
don't.
living.
I don't know how you do it.
So you have a lot of photographer connections, I'd imagine.
She just did a black and white film shoot with Brian Caparici.
Oh, he's doing the film stuff.
And I asked her about it because it's weird. Your face is popping up everywhere.
A little bit.
Because G3 Photography just opened up a studio, and then I saw her face there. She was in some Penn Financial commercials done by Mitchell Riley Pictures, and I saw her there. And then I'm checking Brian Caparici's story on Instagram, and lo and behold, I see her. So then I message her, and I'm like, "What did you think of Brian Caparici?" So what do you think of Brian Caparici?
Yeah, curious.
Oh, he's a great guy. Honestly, it was a great shoot. We
How'd you
bonded.
connect?
So he made a post on the Niagara Photographer Model Group, and he said he was looking for a model for a quick 30-minute shoot, and I jumped on it and was like, hey, let's shoot. New photographer, new person, new connection. Turns out we have a lot of mutual friends, and turns out he shares a birthday with my son.
Oh.
I thought that was quite funny.
Very well respected photographer in the region.
Critically acclaimed.
Yeah. I don't think we've ever said anything but positive things about him.
He is a business genius in the photography world. He's hopefully going to be on this podcast, Brian. Hi.
Hopefully.
We're trying. His schedule is hard.
I don't want to scare him away, but I do want to have one criticism as one thing that we've done.
Okay.
One thing about him. He's an excellent photographer. I like all of his stuff. He's been on this film kick for a little while. And I don't know. I'm no film expert, but I had been shooting it for like many, many years prior to that, because I also got on a film kick at some point. I think the way that he shoots film is different than the way he was doing his digital stuff. And I think, I don't know. I want to ask him why it's so different, because he just seems to he did a lot of like landscape stuff and just weird shots, and it's very different from what he normally does. And I don't know. I feel like he almost treats film as if it's an entirely different thing.
You're allowed to critique.
Yeah. I don't really have enough to say about it to really be on point with what I'm getting at. That's
There's his shoot with her. Just swipe through the story.
I haven't even seen this. What?
Oh, he uses a Rolleiflex. Is he darkroom processing like his own stuff, or is he sending it out?
I think he's darkrooming
He is,
himself. Yeah,
He's
he
using his
mentioned.
bathroom.
They come up pretty good.
What do you think of my Rolleiflex black and white portraits?
Of course, he has a freaking Rolleiflex though. That's like, I don't know how much that particular one is, but they range anywhere from $1,000 to like $2,000 just for an old film camera. But they're great cameras. Wish I could afford.
It was
that
a
kind
fun
of stuff.
shoot. Like it was a fun little shoot because it wasn't too cold, and then so I could.
It's been a few nice days.
It has
There
been
has
a few
been.
nice days, and I hope it stays. But I read the weather, and it's not supposed to, I guess.
It's gloomy, but it's going up to like 13 degrees on Thursday. So spring is peeking through.
Spring is
finally.
sprunging. Spring is springing. I don't know how you can word this right, but it's always interesting. When Makayla and I met, she made note of it, and she is a model that is breaking barriers because she's one of the first models I've met that is continuously able to get work while being under the height restriction that many modeling agencies have.
Yeah.
What is this height restriction?
You have to be
5'.
tall to be a model.
Yeah, and I am not that. So usually it's 5'7". Most
Which is
people push
tall,
for
tall.
5'8". And I am actually sitting at 5'3". I have been sitting at this height since I was 12. So I don't believe I'm growing anymore.
Why do you think the preferential treatment for taller models?
Actually, there is a reason behind that. Is because when designers make their clothes, they need to make sure that it's easy to like adjust when fitting models. So you want a taller model that's narrower, so it's easier for you to adjust fabric that's either going on the runway or going on a shoot, instead of like having to add or remove a bunch of fabric despite the height and the size. That's the only reason why they have like specific requirements, and why majority of the agencies don't allow lower than that height, because it's hard to find fashion work. So once you are under the 5'7", you're mainly glamour, and glamour is not as good, and there's not much paid work in glamour. Most of the paid work is either in erotica, which is more so on the other side of glamour, or the fashion and the creativity and all the other big stuff the agencies do. I was just recently contacted by a couple agencies, but once they found out my height, they're like, sorry, we can't accept you because we can't find any work that's that height. And I'm like, understandable, but I'm still breaking barriers. Like I am competing in the Supermodel Canada Search competition, and that does have a height requirement of 5'7". But I auditioned in person in Toronto back in July, and they accepted me, and I ended up moving on to the top 100, and they did a voting sequence for a month, and I did recently receive an email stating that I was a finalist, and I will be moving on in May to compete for 3 days with multiple candidates across Canada, which makes me in the top 30 of the female category.
We helped by posting.
Thank you, and I really appreciate you posting it.
I do have to say, at the very least, you're shorter than average, but your proportions as a person are on par with what I would say models are. Like, you're not.
It's strange that it's so specifically typed. I don't know. I don't know anything about really the fashion industry, but it feels like there should be like a niche of every kind.
You look at us every day. It's
I
clear
mean-
that neither of us know anything about the fashion industry.
I had to rush not to come here in just like dirty work clothes, because that's how it would have been otherwise.
When you're dealing with supermodel searches or modeling agencies, what's your research like in the agency? Because I'm sure even you have heard of people getting ripped off by fake agencies.
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
in the mall and people are like, "Oh, you should model," and like, "You should get your eyes checked. You just want my money." Do do research? Or?
I do my research behind every casting, every person that contacts me, whether it's contacting me for myself or the models that I coach. My models who also that I coach do come to me and say, hey, is this person reputable? And if I don't personally know, I do the research either online or I do my reference checks with other models that I've seen that's worked with them. So if I see a reputable model that's worked with them that I know only works with trusted photographers, I know that photographer is trusted. So if I've worked with them, then I know that they could be trusted with my models if I feel that I've had a good experience with them. So that goes for photographers, that goes for makeup artists and hairstylists, that goes for directors of creative teams and designers. So I make sure that every situation that whether I'm being put in or any of the models that I coach are being put in is a safe environment for everybody.
I mean, if only we had a short film that needs a bunch of teenage-looking people that need to be cast, we could, because we do.
Yes.
We know a modeling agency of people that do screen work.
That makes sense. I don't think it'd be too hard necessarily to find a bunch of teenagers to be in a... What kind of genre is this? It's like a horror type genre?
Horror comedy, kind of like dark
Walk
comedy.
into an acting high school, you'll find a bunch of them.
Yes.
I spent a lot of times in the dramatic arts department in what was Brock University, but then became the downtown, blanking on the name of it. But anyways, the school. So yeah, there's a lot of very dramatic people looking for jobs.
Hungry for work.
Yes. Oh yes.
Some of them are quite good.
Yeah, and it's always fun. You have a very realistic approach to your social media. You and I have had conversations about it, and you are a successful Instagram model as well.
I don't like being called an Instagram model, honestly.
Okay, you're a successful model
There we
who partakes in the social media company known as Instagram.
Instagram model, I guess, has the connotation that it's like you are just for Instagram.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't mean it like
Oh,
that.
I know that. I know you didn't. It's just, that's the only problem because people are like, oh, you just take photos for Instagram. No. I do them for magazines, I do them for clothing lines, I do them for, I work for fashion shows, I do commercials. Like, if Instagram or Facebook would stop, then I would still continue my modeling work. I would still continue magazines. I would still continue fashion shows because there's still email. There's still other modes of communication that's not Facebook or Instagram for modeling and for acting work. So, I mean, I'm not going to stop if any social media dies. So that's why I don't like just putting myself into that category.
Of course.
Personally.
I
Just a personal preference.
have you found a way to break the barrier and monetize yourself on Instagram or anything like that? Or is it just a marketing tool for you?
I use it more so as a marketing tool because I like the layout that Instagram has more so than the Facebook Pages app, because I feel the Facebook Pages app doesn't make much sense to use unless you actually like analyze it and use it constantly and you have multiple features that you're using like live and video and podcasts and
Hey, speaking of podcasts, this podcast is available on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, the Google Play Music Store, and
iTunes.
Apple Music, and also podcast.com.
Yes.
Oh,
for free.
interesting.
Just saying.
We wouldn't get anything if we asked people to pay for it, so it's fine. Of course it's free.
That's so mean. No, know your worth. Honestly, that's one thing that I like to know and I like to say to people is know your worth. I see models that charge so little for themselves, or actors and people that charge so little for themselves. I'm like, what are you doing? Know your worth.
A photographer, the vast majority of models that have talked to me and contacted me have just basically been looking to trade time for photos. That's pretty much...
Those are
the majority.
Instagram models or wannabe models.
And there's maybe like a 10% set of models that have actually been interested in paying for photos, which is nice, but most don't want to.
See, with me, I will be honest, I've never paid a photographer at all in my 3 years of modeling. Ever since I started, I never paid a photographer. If I feel like I need a specific something for my portfolio, yes, I will consider paying a photographer. If I want that specific photographer to do it, then yes. But when it comes to, I see other models coming around and being like, hey, you want to shoot? Hey, you want to shoot? Okay, what are you doing with the images? What's the plan? What's the mood? What's the theme? Like, what's the purpose? Are you just taking photos to post on your Facebook or your Instagram, or are you using those photos for a storyboard? Are you using those photos for a photo essay or an editorial or a magazine? Like, there's multiple things that you can do with the photos. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a professional manner. Like a photo essay that's personal that you just want to post, that's amazing. That's kind of cool. That's journaling. That's adding something. Instead of just, hey, here's a photo of me and posting it on my Instagram. Hey, here's a photo of me in this outfit, post it on my Instagram. If you're doing it for specific clothing designs or specific designers, that's a different story. You're branding. But if it's literally you're putting on random clothes and you're going to go shoot somewhere, that's working with, either you can work with a professional or you can work with just a GWC, which is a guy with a camera. So, I mean, there's multiple names that actually...
I like the acronym.
Yeah.
It's a nice acronym, honestly. It's not too bad. But I treat my career more like a business. I don't treat it as a hobby because I've come too far and I've put too much effort and time, and I have put money into myself. I have put money into traveling. I have put money into my wardrobe and to things I need. So, I mean, invest in yourself, know your worth.
But on the flip side, and this is just a defense, as a fellow business owner, I've invested my time and money and equipment and everything. So when we first got in touch, I did inquire like what your acting day rates and whatnot, and you gave pricing. Why? And it's just conversation, right? Why do you feel that it's okay to charge for your time when you're not reciprocating by paying for the photographer's time who has spent years, sometimes decades, perfecting their craft?
I feel like it depends on what's happening. Like if it's you asking me for something, and then I feel like I should be paid. But if it's me asking you for something, I feel like obviously vice versa, I should pay you. So it depends on what the situation is happening. What is the content that is being created? Is it benefiting me or is it benefiting you? Is it benefiting someone else? Is it someone else involved? So I feel like it's multiple factors that involve before who should be paying who. Honestly.
Perfect. That's all of it.
It's a bit different because, most jobs, say you build houses, it's pretty clear what direction the money goes. The person building the house gets paid by the person that wants the house, or pretty much any other kind of transaction. But when it comes to art, and it's two artists having an exchange, it's very different, it seems.
If it adds to both people's portfolios, I feel that it should be a collaboration.
Yes.
If it's only benefiting one and the other is just doing something that they normally do, then obviously there's something that needs to happen. Like that's where the line draws. If you feel like you're doing something that you normally do, or you're being asked something that you regularly do or you've done before, obviously that you should be paid for that because you have experience in doing it. Depending on how much experience though, like if you've done it like one or two times, and it's like for models, for instance, like if you only been modeling for like a month, I don't expect you to be charging anybody.
Fair.
To be fair, and that goes for any genre that you're doing. If you've had training, that's a different story. If you have certificates and things to prove that you have model training and you have worked with so and so and so and so, then your worth and value goes up. But if you are just saying, hey, I want to do modeling, let's go do a shoot, that's an Instagram model, that's a wannabe. There is a fine line between social media model and the professional industry. And I trying to stay in the professional, but people kind of keep pushing me saying, oh, no, you're not. No, I do keep it for business. Like, for instance, like the brand ambassadorships that people do on Instagram to make you an Instagram model. I don't like them, as any model probably would say, because I don't feel that I should invest my money in someone else's brand if you're coming to me saying that, hey, I want you in my clothes, kind of deal.
That's fair.
Today alone, I was contacted by 3 brands saying, hey, if I give you a discount code, sorry, I don't have the money for this right now. I'm a mom. I can't just drop money and be like, hey, let me buy your $40 shirt. Yeah. Like, I don't understand the models or the people who drop their money for all these brands being like, oh, I'm a model for this brand and this brand and this brand. Oh, here's my percent code. I'm like, how much did you pay for that item? Okay. Any item that I have represented, that I have modeled, that I have branded, never once paid for. I don't feel like I should have to. If you want me to represent your brand, you want me to model for your company, I need some compensation in that. There's no reason that if you're coming to me, I should be paying you, or I should be giving you something for what you want from me. If you want me to work for you, where's my compensation out of that? That's how I feel that anybody should take out of their career. Anybody, not just a model, but a photographer, for instance. So they do ambassadorships that I see that, hey, take photos for this brand or buy the item first or something like that. Like
for photog, it's actually an odd parallel because for photographers, if you are an ambassador, say of camera gear, like a Canon ambassador or an Nikon ambassador, that's almost one of the most prestigious things you could have bestowed upon you as a photographer. The only thing is you should exclusively use that brand, which is a limitation. But at the same time, any photographer would gladly take some, like, to be the ambassador of a brand. I feel like anyway, so it's a little bit different.
I mean, it's like if they regularly use your photos and you're constantly getting credited for the use of your product, I would understand.
You would be a very high tier photographer to get an ambassadorship with a brand for the most part. At least from what I used to understand about it, some of the world's best.
So I would understand that from a photographer perspective, that's probably true. Yeah. Model perspective, it's literally every next brand.
And it's strange too, because some brands are very, very successful in marketing themselves. One, it's even creeped into my life, and I don't follow any fashion stuff exactly, but even just other Instagram pages that I follow start pushing Fashion Nova and all these like different brands, and I see it constantly. Yeah. So it seems like there's money being spent on advertising or something.
So because of those ambassadorships and people being like, oh, here's my discount code, because they're buying the item, they have other people be using their code, and it's marketing. It's kind of like how Sensi's
good at marketing.
Yes, it's kind of like how Sensi and Norwex and all those other brands work, because you're using your company and you're recruiting others to sell your clothes at a discounted price or whatever. So it's that tree business perspective.
You brought up Sensi. It's off topic. But Sensi.
Marketing.
I have so much Sensi at home.
I like the product.
Me too.
I like the smell of the product. However,
I don't like the light bulbs that burn out.
Yes. However, I was recently found out that in order to print anything for Sensi, you need to go to a Sensi approved printer. So if you're doing business cards as a Sensi rep, you have to go through a Sensi approved printer.
Oh God, that's too much business work.
I thought that was interesting because that means that the printers obviously have to be approved through some sort of process, obviously. So I inquired, and I had a friend Sensi rep try to get in touch, and they failed to do so. So I went on my own and I contacted the company, and within 3 minutes I got a reply back.
Oh wow!
I'm thinking, well, this is odd because nobody
replies in 30
is
minutes.
that excited to talk to a printer. So the first thing they asked was, do you know or do you have any immediate family that is working for Sensi? I said, no, not that I'm aware of. And after that, that's when they let the bombshell go. Sensi charges the Sensi certified printers a fee to be a Sensi certified printer. Yes. So minimum, they'll charge $100 a month to be a printer, and there's nothing in it. The only thing that I would get as a Sensi certified printer is I would get the proper printable Sensi logos. Now, $100 a month wouldn't have been that bad if they gave me the contact list of every Sensi rep in Niagara. That's a decent list.
Then you could go through and
say, hey, we're your new Sensi certified printer. They don't give you that. So I have to pay $100 a month
And then do your own research.
to just exist. And then on top of that, they take, I forget what the number was, but I'm pretty sure it was like a 35% commission on every sale that you make through their Scentsy people.
That's a ripoff. I'm sorry. I wouldn't. I don't like that.
And that is why there's no Scentsy certified printers in Niagara. I couldn't believe it.
I've seen Scentsy business cards. I wonder if there's some under the table.
There is. We have a
business
friend who
card
designed Scentsy stuff for a Scentsy rep, and she is not Scentsy certified. I know this for a fact. So,
We're not going to
Scentsy,
name names.
you're idiots. We would have at least did high quality stuff for you.
It's true.
I'm gonna tag
for,
Scentsy.
For all of the people like us, there's a bunch of hacks that would probably make really bad looking business cards.
Yes.
I like Vistaprint. That's what I've used.
Pretty reputable company.
Well, you should.
Hey, I just saw your ad
Yeah.
today, so I'm kind of probably switching over.
It's a good idea. I'll give you some marketing stuff.
Having graphic design element and stuff like business cards or other promotional materials is nice because you can really customize stuff.
Oh yes.
I realized it was a business decision. We deal with clients who come to us for expensive products. We're dealing with some businesses that don't want to be hounded a few times a week on sales and whatnot. Vistaprint, their model, I used to use Vistaprint for my personal business stuff, and I get 3 emails a week from them.
I know.
Most
I still do.
business people don't necessarily want that, so that's why we made the decision to do an offshoot Facebook page, so that way we can actually post sales and whatnot without alienating wedding clients or stuff, people like that. And then we can post sales that have nothing to do with photography as well, and kind of grow a separate brand that's just an offshoot, which I think makes sense. And then the website, which is getting redesigned, is going to have 3 or 4 distinct features or 4 distinct sectors, one being weddings, then portraits, and then commercial, then printing products.
It's diversifying, having multiple things that you do and are talented at, so you can, I guess, expand where you get revenue from.
So, yeah, I'll give you a brochure. You can be a DH Media Printing and Promo Company ambassador.
Yeah.
I think the word ambassador is going to get overused if it's becoming such a problem.
No, I wouldn't ask you to be an ambassador, but I would like your business because we could do some good stuff together.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instagram is definitely my favorite social media type platform.
It's addicting.
And there's a problem I have with them.
What's your problem with Instagram?
Oh, she
You
has a big
can't
problem.
use them on desktop.
Yes, actually, you're right.
You can't post and you cannot do messages through desktop
Which
on
is the
Instagram.
biggest issue I have.
It is a
with
big
it first.
issue.
The reason I didn't even use Instagram, I think, until 2014 maybe, is because all of the photos I took were on my desktop, and it's a hassle because now the only way that I can do it, and I do time to time do it, is transfer all of my photos to my phone.
You know what
and
I do now?
So it's such
I
a
do it
management
so
nightmare.
often.
I've got a better idea for you now, Eric.
What's that?
Upload all the photos you want to the NAS. You have the NAS
And
app on
it
your
can post
phone,
directly to.
and then you can just download from the NAS and go that way. That's what I'm handling.
Oh
all the
no,
DH
that's not
Media
any.
ones.
That's not any easier. The issue with that is that
Well,
a
I
desktop
like it.
computer is set up to be a very efficient file managing system for the way we work with photos. We have Lightroom catalogs and we have just folders designated with stuff. It's so
Terabytes and terabytes.
So much easier to post than that. But from a phone, it gets ridiculous. And every time you post a photo, there's a separate version of the photo now.
Yes.
That's a compressed version that Instagram has, and it just gets cluttered. So yeah, I actually totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Why do you think Instagram does that though?
To keep, I don't know. Maybe there's a way of blocking ad. No, you can't block ads in the app. I don't think. But on a desktop, you would be able to. So I'm not sure.
Maybe. I like, because I do go to the actual desktop website of Instagram sometimes to look through photos, and I like
Sometimes
the
it makes sense.
website.
It looks
It's just
okay.
it needs. I think eventually you'll probably be able to. I'm sure the CEO of Instagram, which is now consequently the CEO of Facebook.
Yes.
I'm sure they have said why you can only use it on your phone, because I'm sure originally it was solely for mobile photos, right? That was the whole point.
Maybe it's just easier to develop for
Insta,
only
yeah.
mobile.
right, like Insta photos.
I miss the old Instagram icon. I don't know.
The rainbow.
Yeah, it was the brown camera
thing
with
the
the
rainbow.
Polaroid kind of looking thing.
I had said, like, I find it to be the most rewarding bit of social media, because you can't on Facebook get people to like a post 50 times.
No.
But on Instagram you can, and it's very attainable to do that.
Depending. I mean, I have over 5,000 people that follow me on Instagram. I can't get over like 125 likes. And
well, you can, but you don't like doing that.
No, because
talked about.
Oh my God, there's a whole other factor
you have to push
that.
a ton of hashtags most.
No, it's
not for her.
No, not me. No.
Wait, before you even say it, let's think about it. Eric, think like a model for a second. What can a model do to guarantee more likes?
Guarantee likes. What does she have to post?
Seductive material.
There you go.
And it makes sense.
I hate it. I don't do it. I don't like it. No. Like, even just unclothing, like just in like bikinis or just like anything in that sort, it just gets more likes.
You go through her feed, and the ones where she's dressed uniquely, like when we met, she had just completed a steampunk shoot, which looked really cool. Not as many likes as some very scantily clad photos.
I don't know if that's ever really going to change. There's human
won't.
nature at the core of it, and just people are, of all varying levels of intelligence can all agree on one thing, and they kind of like the seductive nature of many different types of modeling shoots and all that stuff. Even when I take off my shirt in a few Instagram photos, it sometimes works better.
There's a problem that I've seen. People like selfies more than professionally taken images. Or cell phone.
Really?
I have seen selfies get more likes than professionally taken images.
In the case of my Instagram, I don't think that's true, but I don't really take very good
Well, when it
selfies.
comes to a model's perspective or like a female perspective in general, like if you take in like a sexy selfie or just a selfie that makes you look better than what your professional looks, then people are just gonna like those.
Maybe there's a sense of authenticity to it as well, where it's just
You,
the model and the camera, and it's not this. There's not this layer in between of what's photoshopped, what's going on. This is a professional thing. It's not as personal, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
My personal Instagram photo doesn't have any selfies, so I can't even say, yeah, that's true.
You don't have any selfies?
I don't have any selfies on mine either.
I'm trying to find one. It's all, oh, that's a selfie. That's the three of us. That's not super liked.
No. I
not
definitely
liked.
don't get more likes on my selfies.
Although
Justin takes a lot of selfies.
Justin, my videographer, exclusively is a selfie person. So he has 1,100 fans, and he
does well with selfies.
On selfies that are actual selfies, not me testing lights, averages. Where the hell are your selfies now? Lower than I thought, actually. That's 40. That's
40
20.
months, yeah.
But he is a Instagram fiend. So,
seems like Instagram's the only place left for the most part that's just photos exclusive. Because Flickr was pretty big, maybe like 6-7 years ago.
I hated Flickr. You couldn't download images properly.
No,
It took a little like, I don't know. There's a little trick that I had to do, like log into like a specific browser or something. I forget what it was.
It was a lot about the photographer's rights, so it probably didn't let you download just because copyright.
Yeah, no, like there was some ways that were letting me, and then some that weren't.
Some had would reserve their all rights reserved, and some would just be Creative Commons and things like that. But it was very much geared towards photographers. Like you could upload full resolution photos, and they looked really good. Mm-hmm. The interface was okay for its time. Yeah.
Never used Flickr.
It's not popular anymore.
Well, that's why I never used it. Probably never will.
I told the story in the podcast.
I've been on your Flickr. That's probably the first and last Flickr I was on.
I had a microcosm of fame on Flickr because I bought a camera right around the time a camera came out, and when people were reviewing it, it wasn't even available in Canada yet because I ordered it from the States. And people used my photos in the reviews.
Felt like a badass.
So I have like across a set of like 10 photos, probably like 5 million views.
Nice.
And it means nothing because nobody commented, nobody engaged them. But I was like, I just started doing photography. I'm like, how did this happen?
How did this? Yeah.
Never came back. I mean, it still was better than Instagram. I could easily get like
Instagram quality is terrible.
It is terrible. You just get like 1,000.
Facebook quality is worse though.
Instagram is weird because I can't. Like they obviously don't say what is going to work, but there have been some crappier photos that just do so much better than, like, say the best of our photos. Some of them do well, and then some of them are like, well, I'm just going to delete this because the stars were not in alignment today. But a lot of it is just, I guess, random timing, because I'm trying, now that I have more time, to pay attention to the peak times of when our followers are online, and that sometimes works. But then also the hashtag game, if you read articles online, people are like, you should do as many as you can.
Yeah, but Instagram only allows 30.
Yes, but that's still
a lot. I mean, if you fill the entire description with hashtags, and you can comment them too below.
Yeah, but the commenting part. If you comment too many, you get shadow ghosted.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what that means.
Yes.
Okay.
Just people, you can see it, but nobody else can see what you've written, basically.
Yeah, on the hashtag. Like it doesn't show up on the hashtag or anything.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting game, and then there's so many people that most of the time when people like or follow us, rather, I do always try to check them out to try to see if this is just going to be somebody who quickly follows and then disappears.
It's a lot of follow for follow on Instagram.
Do you want to take a pause?
No, it's just my mom.
Okay.
I'll call her later, and then she'll see this video, and she'll be like, "Oh, that's what happened."
Hi, Makayla's mom. You're calling right now. But I haven't been able to kind of...
GoPro died. It's fine.
Haven't been able to figure out or nail the exact equation, because photos can do really well, but sometimes they don't get followers, and then sometimes a ton of people... I just don't get it. I've sat down and I've tried to figure out what does well, but
as time goes on, I'm considering it to be less and less important for certain things about social media. And I kind of like the attitude of just, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, regardless of if I promote myself on social media. If, these platforms just went away, it could still exist. I mean, all of this stuff, like modeling and even like all this wedding photography industry, that all existed long before social media.
It did, but it's very interesting, because we know of some photographers that solely get their business off of Instagram. Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting to know if they could have existed before, or if they were able to find a niche and they've worked.
Would there be as many photographers and models and people striving for that area if social media didn't exist as much?
Probably not.
It's more accessible. I mean, anybody can have a camera.
Yeah, it's more exactly. Like any iPhone can do almost as good as a professional camera. Like, I mean, I've seen great iPhone photos, but I mean, it's a lot of the effort. Like most
designing a set and the clothes and all sorts of stuff.
Talking about social media,
are we gonna take a selfie? Oh, lovely.
Eric,
I'm barely in the photo. It's okay.
Wait, there we go. There we go. We'll post it to the page later and maybe get like 1 like.
We'll do a test of the theory about likes of selfies. Anyway.
No, the cost to entry to be a business owner nowadays is so much lower. Like, there's a ton of photographers that operate solely on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And it bothers me because it doesn't cost anything to have a business page. Now that I say that out loud, maybe it'd be good if it did. Even a small fee to be a business on Facebook would weed out a lot of them.
Well, any of the promotions or the ads you want to put out, you got to pay for.
But you don't need to.
But yeah,
for years, we were able to operate mostly successful with no paid advertising. Mm-hmm. And then now we've got into it and we've had better success in certain areas. I've never had anybody book a wedding off of an advertisement, so I don't think that most people are sitting on Facebook thinking, I can't wait to see all the wedding videographer ads on Facebook.
No, because
that's how I'm going to book.
You know what it is? I find that anybody who's looking for weddings, they do post on Facebook, but either they're posting to their friends or like I see a bunch in like mom groups and
yes,
stuff.
I know. I'm on those mom groups.
Yeah.
I am there. And I know...
or I'm beating you, tagging you in them.
Yeah, you know I'm there because I see you like everything I say. I appreciate that. We
Hey, always
call you
have
guys
to
the
engage in
defenders of
everybody
Dulster.
else's. That's what I do. I engage with everybody else's social media posts, so it builds them up. Like, people don't understand how much just liking and a small comment on your friend's stuff actually builds a lot. People don't realize that. And
I did a workshop with somebody, and he had said, basically, if you run your business right, there's no shortage of money in the world. I mean, technically, eventually, like, you get to a grand scale, yes, there is a shortage of money, but there's realistically no shortage of money. Like, everybody, if they do it right, can run a successful business. Mm-hmm. And I learned over the years that when I started out, there was a small ego, but it wasn't a deserved ego, and now there's not. But I went to competitors who I might not have been the most polite to, and I apologized and just said I was a young guy, and there's enough money to go around. Like, on the wedding side of things, the wedding industry is a $4.3 billion industry in Canada, bigger in the States. And then when you assume that most people spend a good, like, 25 sometimes % on their photo and video, yeah, that's over $1 billion. That's a lot of money. That's more than enough for everybody to survive.
And I think the modeling and fashion industry is much bigger. So.
Yeah, it is, because it keeps growing, because there's always new fashion fads coming out, and there's always the next new phase. That's the other thing. But the next new phase, that's 5'7" or 5'8". That's the problem.
Well, just tell your photographers to shoot lower.
Just do a better angle. Like, make sure I'm just in heels and just make me look tall. Like, I mean, I do tend to look tall in my photos. People are very surprised
because it's proportional.
Yeah, it's very proportional.
I do have to ask, I know you've shared some stories, but I always find it intriguing, without mentioning names, because we don't like doing that. Nope. You have dealt with more photographers on a professional level than I ever have. You have to have some horrible stories. Or some interesting stories. I don't want to go...
I've had interesting stories. I mean, I've had a photographer message me, like, off social media, asking me to come over and get lucky, even though I'm underage. And they mentioned
a bad move.
They mentioned alcohol, and I was 18 when they did this. And then I mentioned, well, I have my kid, and then they're like, oh, well, they can sleep, and I'm like, excuse me. I haven't worked with that photographer since. I've associated with them. So. I've talked with them, but I don't think I will shoot with them because no. I've seen other people that worked with me that left, like either my team or whether they just stopped talking to me or whatever. I see them work with all these other people that don't work with me anymore, and it's like, oh, it's interesting because I love the work that they're producing, and it looks so good, and I'm like, wish I could do that still, but I'm like, I just don't want to put myself in a position like that, to be personal.
It's good to have a sort of set of guidelines you want to follow, whether it be moral, ethical, or anything like that. But like, if it's something is a no-go zone for like who you would work with, then it's good just to.
Exactly. Honestly, like, that's what I do. I do screen anybody I've worked with or any person that I had bad experience with. Like, like, that's why I want to help others, because there's a bunch of people that want to get in this industry, and there's people that have the drive and that have the determination to do it, and I want to work with those people. I want to be the one that helped them through what they want to go through, so they can be like, hey, yeah, she helped me. And that's what I want to be known for, someone that's helping. Like, I don't want to, like, demand everybody for money. I don't want to, like, say, hey, like, make sure that my name's on that or whatever. No, I want to help. I want to grow other people and promote other people and make sure that everybody's working in a safe environment, because I don't want anybody else getting hurt or anybody else getting taken and all the lovely old another child missing in Niagara. I don't want that, because that's why I do the screening, because there's people that are being scammed and saying, hey, come do this modeling gig, and lo and behold, you never see them again. And
that's terrifying.
I've had those contacting me, and I'm like, no, I know the scams.
Screenshots of contact or conversations with people saying they're with an agency or something like that, and it turns out to be scammy.
Yeah, scamming
Dangerous
agencies
scamming.
are terrible. I've seen them. They've contacted me. I've seen other people contacted them. I have friends that have been with these agencies, and they're like, yeah, they scam me out of my money. I'm like, wish you talked to me, because I already knew about them.
There's almost a social awareness that's coming about, though. Like, on Facebook, I've had people message all the members of the group, so like a buy and sell group or whatever group it is, and they will message everybody and say that this person is scamming people, or these people are scamming people. Watch out for this, watch out for that. And it's, people are sort of teaming up. They're sort of fighting back against it. It's interesting. Pretty much any aspect of someone's life can be benefited by fact checking. I mean,
Well, yes.
I come from a sciences background where that's pretty much the entirety of the job. But yeah, no, fact checking everything. Don't believe everything you see online. I mean, there's a lot of, I feel like a lot of the elderly and older people sort of get tricked into stuff too. But it goes to show a lot of young people that are maybe a little bit desperate to get into an industry, or they just want to start something new, definitely could be taken advantage of by others in this world. Little bleak, but I'm sure there's lots of good to go with all the bad too. Lots of people that do good work and actually want to work with people and give them a fair
I
deal.
like people who are determined. I like people who want to be involved, who want to make a product, not just continue like something they want to lead on or something. Like, going back to the Instagram model thing, like I don't want to work with Instagram models. I don't want to work with someone who just wants to put photos on Instagram, or someone who just wants to take a photo for this.
Do you think that maybe they just don't have the right aspirations yet, and they don't know what can be achieved?
I don't think they know what the industry actually is. I don't think people have a proper mindset on what they're getting into when they say, oh, I'm a model. Because people just assume, oh, I'm taking photos of me in clothing and I can post on Instagram and there we go.
So you think that's maybe a little bit insulting to the rest of the models?
It really is, honestly. We've put in hard work. We've put in tears. We put in early mornings, late nights, overnights, no sleep, like multiple nights of sleeping with your makeup on your face, like working the next day with the same makeup on, just adjustments, and like there's multiple things that we've done and that we deal with that Instagram models don't understand. Like, they may feel like, oh, we're doing the same thing, but no, you're not really. You actually have to make sure that you're doing something you're following a direction, you're following a blueprint, you're following someone else's vision, you're not following your own, which is what the difference is.
There might be another similarity there. I mean, there are definite arguments to the fact that the Instagram models versus the traditional like print models are two different beasts, because there are very successful models that just operate on Instagram that make a living. So you can't necessarily bash them for doing that, but then also on the flip side, we deal with that as well. Like, you have the people that put in the long hours, run a proper business, and then there are the people that, I mean, you could even just use Instagram as an example. There are photographers that are just on Instagram, and that's how they book $25 photo shoots.
I was going to say also they undercut everybody.
Yes.
Which is not good for photographers, because then people say, this photographer ripped me off.
The photography industry in general.
Which is where the acronym GWC comes in.
Yeah, camera to camera. I like it. I'm liking it more.
What other acronyms are there?
On the top of my head, I can't even think of any.
I guess technically
I don't know if
that
there's another word. It's called TOGs, which is photographers.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys knew that. Like,
Okay.
there's another one
Matt
that
Granger
I
uses
kind of
that
throw
one
around.
a lot. YouTube photographer.
Guy with a camera. I like that.
And
term.
I should add, George Carlin would roll in his grave.
And
because he would
to
say
be
that
fair,
it's not an acronym because you can't say it like a word.
if you're working with a photographer that doesn't have their own lights, they're not a photographer.
They ask some models to bring the lights? Or?
No, like I see people are like, oh, let's go do a shoot, and they only do on location shoots, and they don't own any equipment whatsoever besides the camera. Not even another lens, just the camera.
But there's skill to natural light photography.
Yeah, no, you need something.
You need
modified.
yeah,
Like,
like
even if you're outside, you should have reflectors or something.
if you're a photographer, I'm gonna say this, you're gonna have at least more than one lens at two, at least.
Likely.
Likely, exactly.
Unless you have a very specific type of photography in which I can see some.
But I would
people being
I would
successful.
imagine that like you would have more equipment than just that camera.
Most likely.
That's what I mean. Like I see
6 lenses, 5 cameras, a partridge in a pear tree.
We got equipment in every closet and every crevice.
Yes.
Hiding out.
Oh yeah, but like I mean that's what I mean. I don't understand the girls who just. I don't see how they build so much too. Like it has something to do with just the way they look. Honestly, looks have a huge factor in everything, and that's probably why I don't get as much because personally I don't feel like I'm as good looking because growing up I was bullied for looking like a boy.
I've seen that on Facebook. You used to have really short hair.
I
too,
had a
though,
buzz
right?
cut, yes.
But that was
Very much
because
the
of the
opposite
cadets,
now.
right?
Yes. No, I shaved my head when I was younger because I had a really bad case of head lice.
Okay.
And then
She said her hair has measured to be 30 inches as of today.
Very
as
long.
of today, it is 30 inches long. All natural, never
It's longer than
dyed.
my hair has grown in my life.
My hair grows quite rapidly, which is why it's usually just sticking straight up.
This podcast in general, if you look throughout all 55 episodes, it's just a mix of Jesse and Eric getting longer hair and not shaving for prolonged periods of time,
Pretty much.
which is interesting in itself. But
The cadets is kind of interesting because I was in Army cadets as a
Oh,
kid,
fun.
and it was everybody rips on each other's cadets.
Yes, we do.
We made fun of
Yes,
the
we
air
do.
cadets all day
I was
long.
in Scouts.
Although the
Oh my God, Scouts! Don't even put them in this equation, please.
it is very true that I think the biggest thing you can take away from it is the organization because it's very structured.
It's changed. It is so
different.
changed
Changed?
since I've left. I left about 2 years ago, and it's changed. 2 years ago. It's not the same. They've gone soft.
They did.
It's really soft.
We used to do winter camping. It was like negative.
That's not an existing
15
thing. It's way too
outside.
cold. Way too cold for us. We're not
It was
allowed.
so good. You would wake
It's
up.
so much fun.
They had like steel bed frames, and like if you fell asleep and your arm fell out and like touched the steel, you'd wake up with like frostbite on your hand.
How come Scouts aren't in that equation?
Because
I did winter camping too, and I wasn't in Scouts Canada. We were in the traditional Baden Powell Scouting Association. We wore the Stetsons. We did archery. We did winter camping. We did everything.
what was the age group? What was the age group?
Well, I did it from.
Were you allowed to shoot real guns?
Oh, we did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh.
So screw you guys. It was. I
It's
did
because
winter camping. I
we
never
were
slept
ran
in
by
a metal
the
bed
Canadian
in
military.
winter.
It's because we're ran by the Canadian military.
Yeah.
There's a
That's
bunch
why they
of
don't count.
a bunch of rules that sort of seem to intervene because they don't want like child soldiers, so there's weird boundaries on what they can and cannot
I don't
do.
believe in child. That was the main thing that was yelled at us when we were doing tagging. Tag days, those are fun.
They let you shoot guns, but they wouldn't let you go paintballing because it's like simulated battle.
They won't allow
and
that.
stuff.
And when it comes to the guns, it's airsoft pump.
Oh,
They don't do the 22s
No.
or the 303s or anything like that. I got to shoot 303s when I was training on drill and ceremonial, but we were shooting blanks. So
okay.
the 303 Lee Enfields was what I got to fire.
Yeah, the old Leon.
I love the Lee Enfields. They're fun.
Ross rifle's not so safe. They have the straight bolt that can fly back and
Yeah.
hit you in the eye. Not good. Very poor Quebec design.
Quebec.
I didn't do most of my shooting from cadets because I just grew up with a family that hunted.
I
so.
did only my shooting through cadets, and when I joined, they're like, "Oh, join the range team." I'm like, "Okay." I ended up placing 12th in my first year.
Pretty good.
I'm surprised. And
So in other words, don't screw with you.
I left by the time I was 15. I had the distinguished level marksmanship, which is I think shooting a grouping about that big, which is a grouping of 5.
How many yards?
I think it was only 10 meters. It wasn't.
Oh, okay. It's not so bad.
It's not too.
I can
10
hit a
or
grouping
more.
about the size of a quarter at about 50 yards if I really try. Not standing upright. That's too
I've
hard.
done standing, I've done kneeling, I've done prone, and I've trained in multiple different.
The Olympic style shooting stance has never really sat too well with me. I know people are really good at it, but I have not yet mastered it.
It's not
tricky.
too bad. As long as you can hold yourself up. It's mainly your upper body.
Yes, it's just an awkward position. You kind of feel like you're leaning back on yourself, and it's hard to get used to. But
oh yes, it very much is.
Used to sort of just as a kid, I would go hunting with my dad, and it's just whatever position you're standing in, and that's about it.
When I was younger, when I was in cadets. Originally, they were having me train for biathlon.
That's cool.
Because I was a good marksman, and I was I could quick scope and I could shoot very accurately in a short time. Like when we were in competition, we had 20 rounds to fire, and they give you like a good I think 40 minutes or whatever, and or longer than that, I forget what it was, and you're supposed to take at least like 30 a minute or so for each round, to think, process.
Seems
and
a little bit.
it seems like a
on
long.
the same target.
Yeah, multiple targets.
Okay.
So the competition round. So we had 2 targets of 10, and you had to shoot 20 different rounds. So they give you enough time. I shot my 20 rounds in very accurate, actually, in 18 minutes. And I was the first one done, and everyone was firing for another I swear I sat there for a good half hour. It was brutal. And I think I placed in the top 15 that year too again.
I would be interested in looking, I mean, one day I'll have kids. I would be interested in seeing what cadets has become at this point.
I know that Scouts Canada has went to shit.
So did cadets.
Not that I was in Scouts Canada, but by the time I was old enough to be in the British equivalent, they had got rid of uniforms, which was a big thing traditionally in scouting, right? Uniform. And there was just a bunch of other changes. They didn't really camp or anything like that, so it just became since most of the time they would take place in church, it just became a non-religious church group almost. So that's why I liked the more traditional side of things. But I do have a question about the cadets. What was the end goal? In Scouts, there's nothing we could go to, but it's run, as you said, kind of by the Canadian military. So were they training children to eventually? So what was the goal?
So the Air Cadet motto is to learn to serve to advance, and you retire at the age of 19. I ended up retiring at 16, but the main goal is for air specifically. Most people tend to go to the flying courses and get their gliders and their wings and whatnot. For Army cadets, I see more para and more people moving into the military going through Army cadets. Same thing with air. With air, I find they teach more leadership and more commanding than the other 2 elements. And then with sea, I don't know much on sea cadets, but I know they have, you can get your scuba diving license through them. That's one thing I learned. And your sailing license
I guess
and all that
if they're
stuff.
paying for it, that's great.
Which is the same thing with the pilot's license and same thing with the para.
That's neat. I've been scuba diving since about the age of 12, but
never been.
It's pretty good. I don't do it as much now. I think I destroyed part of my sinuses, so I just get a massive headache.
Oh.
But it's cool. I love snorkeling at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
He's been chased by fish.
Yeah.
But I see, the main goal for cadets is to become a good, I would just say a proper citizen of society, because I mean, it's just, I like the program, and I don't think, it doesn't promote you to move into the military. It would love, it's a great start for recruitment and whatnot. It's a good preparation. But then if you were to move on to the military, I hear from my friends who have moved on that it's a little it's not frowned upon exactly, but I see people getting picked on or whatever just for being in cadets, then moving on to the military.
I was picked on because I was in Scouts, so I know the exact same thing. Once again, picked on tonight. It's been the first time in years. It was fun. Doesn't matter. I'm an upstanding citizen, so it worked.
I mean, I hope I am. I'm helping others, so that's what I'm trying to do. Well,
I think it's very, I don't know what the statistics are, but it seems as though because there's so many different types of businesses to be in. Years ago, if you wanted to be a turnkey entrepreneur, you'd sell Tupperware. And thankfully, that's not the only option now. You can sell Scentsy.
Yeah.
But there's real guts and courage to be an actual independent entrepreneur. Because while there are Scentsy reps and they do work for themselves, and based on the tax situation, they are completely self-employed. So yes, they are entrepreneurs. When you are peddling a product that you are making, that you are creating, that has no outside existence outside of you, you are a upstanding member of society, and you are living the Canadian dream. So you just have to keep plugging at it, and yeah, that's
It's a fairly positive note. I feel like almost that's where we should wrap up because it's so culminating.
well, it's true.
I don't know if I want to keep talking.
No, okay, fine. You just have to keep it up, and we'll hear from you. There'll be a book. I want to hear about homelessness in Alberta.
Maybe we'll have you back on, and it'll be a totally different story to tell.
We should do a round table with different guests that we've talked about it. Try to mix and match. But now we're talking. So have a good night, everybody.
Thanks for watching.
Say goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
I'll put your information.